All right. So, Happy New Year! Happy New Year to everybody who's here or who will be here. Okay. So let me go over some things real quick. We've got the rest of this month for classes for the non-duality, but I'm going to start prepping you guys for what is energetically in the books for this year as far as um where we're heading as a light working collective, right? So we're shifting. I mean, obviously we've been doing this since 2012, but now what you guys are going to notice is a very dramatic shift in consciousness. Like you're really going to be aware of it this year. It's like this separation. So I have been working this whole holiday season on next year's curriculum, basically. And what I've done is I put together basically 27 occult trainings that are used to basically create a collective. Okay, so how do you create a collective? Well, first you do something, you offer something, you say something, whether it's good or bad, that gets people's attention. But we're not going to do any of that in the world. We're going to be using all of our higher consciousness and basically our own nervous system and our own embodiment. So, and this is also going to accelerate your spiritual gifts, okay? Really anchor in and solidify more light into your body. And that is going to give you confidence, because I will tell you, the one thing that if I could say, like, requirement where you should be working in January is getting confidence, okay? So that when you're out in the world, when you're in, you want to feel the same out in the world as you do at home reading your spiritual content or working on your stuff. Because when you go out into the world and you don't feel safe, what your body is telling you is that you are taking in energy. Okay. It actually has nothing to do with anyone else around you, other than when you get out, your posture changes, your mindset changes. Okay. You go from relaxation and comfort and just like putting around and doing things to being whatever is still left in your subconscious mind is going to be activated with all those mirrors out there. So I actually just did a horrific TikTok video on how to deregulate your nervous system out in the world. Okay. And one of the fastest ways to get your body back into neutral is to make sure that your power center is active. So those of you who did quantum fitness, remember when your root is almost like you're popping it up to the sun to take in that energy, your shoulders will naturally go back. And when your head is like this, you feel all the negative emotions. Because you guys remember we did that like shadow release where we had our neck down and it activated all those lower negative emotions. So when your chin is actually a little bit more than forward, is slightly up, okay? This is where now you are actually not taking on anyone's stuff. So way more difficult for you to actually feel negative emotion in this position with your body, because now you have anchored your focus, your consciousness into the higher chakras. Those are your antennas. So when your head is down, you are anchored into your lower chakras. And see, this is why they have created this opportunity for everybody to get into this position constantly. And so they're feeling everything. Okay. I mean, I haven't seen anybody walking around like this with a phone yet. So I don't know, maybe in Japan or something. They always have some weird stuff over there, but I'm not seeing that. And this is what you're seeing everywhere. So even when people are not on their phone, we have such a high amount of empaths and sensitives and extrasensory and spectrum people out in the world now, that the way that you think you're staying safe is to kind of pull your body in. But what that does is it actually makes you a vacuum. So what'll happen is, and I was noticing that this was an old habit that I had last year. It's like you're one person at home and then you go out in the world and you kind of like you're riding on the excitement of the, like, what's happening, or you're kind of riding on the frustration, but you'll find yourself activating one of those nervous system responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or friend. And like, where I analyzed myself, especially if I was in a social gathering, my go-to my whole life has always been fawn or friend or freeze. Okay. And then you freeze and you're like, my temperature feels off. So I'm like eating to get some dopamine, right? But what I do in a social situation is I would go into that fawn or that friend, and then I would be like agreeing to things and making plans with people 2 weeks down the line. And I'm literally excited about it. I'm like, hell yeah. And then that time comes and I'm like, oh, who is this person? So that person has a deregulated nervous system and she is trying to survive the moment and has no idea that she could totally just, with her own awareness and her own consciousness, create a safety neutral spectrum for her body to be out into the world. So it's going to be things like that. Like this entire year coming up, I want what I have planned is all embodiment, like theory and practical. Practice, 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 practice. You know, practice your spell casting, you know, from using love in abundance through the collective. Because one thing that we've learned this year about really getting balanced and neutral and back to our 0 point energy is that we can't be carrying a crap ton of baggage with shame and guilt. So that acceptance work, that forgiveness work that we've been doing, that is going to help you tremendously feel better about yourself. But ultimately, like, my agenda for January is for us to learn how to get our bodies confident, because you think that you're not confident. It's not true, because you feel confident when you are not triggered. But we have been triggered our whole lives, you guys. So your body will go into one of those responses, even if you don't feel triggered, because that means something to your body. Okay. Traffic or people or groups. Because when you are such a sensitive being and you're not really using your extrasensory gifts yet, they are going to feel like they're not going to feel like you're blessing. They're going to feel like they're against you. So when you are in the right posture, grounded and anchored with your root kind of puckered up at the sun, okay, you in that moment could access all of your divine gifts. If you are all in, okay, now you're disengaged, you're not getting oxygen to your root, you're not who you are. You are the mask. And you're probably going to be, you're going to go to that mask that you've always gone to, and it will be so automatic, you're not even going to recognize it, because it's not like your heart starts to beat out of crazy. It doesn't mean that you're feeling any kind of way, because we've lived in fight or flight for so long that it just feels almost normal to not feel normal. So those are the things that we want to really pay attention to, especially starting off this year. This year is going to, well, I guess it's going to be based on what you've created. So if you have been kind of like blowing the work off and still not really unpacking your baggage, you're going to notice that this year is going to feel really disrespectful. Okay, that's a good word. You're going to feel disrespected by this year, because the energy momentum is increasing. And so again, focus has increased, and where energy goes, focus goes. So one thing about manifestation, and I think I said this in one of my lives, I don't remember at this point, is that the way that the collective uses your energy field to manifest is by getting you to look at things. Okay. So you are not doing yourself any sort of service keeping tabs on the conspiracy theory. And the reason why is because if you don't have like your own occult tools to deal with that, fight fire with fire, like if you don't know how to reverse that energy flow, you are actually manifesting for them. They don't care if you are terrified. They want you to look at what's happening. They're the ones that are leaking the stuff in the news because they own the media. They want us to look at it so that our stream of consciousness, which is a projector, looks at it, and it doesn't matter how we feel, because manifestation is created through focus. So they have a desire that they cannot fulfill without our consciousness, because we're streaming. We're the Wi-Fi. So they tap into our ability to focus and obsess. And they, hey, look over here, look over here, look over here. Now we're looking over there and it's a train wreck and I can't look away. And now I've watched 15 videos about the same thing, and they've just manifested what they showed us. Because see, the way the occult works is exactly how we manifest through the consciousness of our God spectrum. It is focused, emotional energy. So where I look for too long, I'm either creating for me or whoever is in my head. So, and I know where your nervous system is at. It's saying, well, if we don't look at it, then what? We can't turn our back to it. Then what if I wake up one day and the world's over? Good. Then you missed out. Whoop, you're back in heaven. I mean, you really want to look at it like that at this point. Now, this year in this class, and I'm calling it becoming, I changed the name. I've had a lot going on in the last 12 days. A lot. Okay. A lot of upgrades coming through for me. This class this year is becoming superhuman. Bottom line. That's all we're doing. Okay. Activating all your gifts, but you're going to be doing it from your emotional body, your physical body, your etherical body, your spiritual body. You're going to be working with these elements to basically recalibrate your eternal confidence. Because you know that, all of these genetic gifts that you have literally are in that etherical space where you could pull from. And we're not using any of it other than our affirmations. Okay. We're affirming robotically because we're starting to get triggered out in the world, and I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And the thing is that we are, just one of us is more powerful than an army. Because remember, they don't have Wi-Fi. And this is why people get triggered with you, is because you take your Wi-Fi away from them. You don't feed their agenda. This is why people fall in love with your energy, because you are just so unique. And then the second you're like, I got to do me for a minute, right? So you want to understand that it's never been you that's been weak, ever. But we have been taught to look at things, feel things, and then decide who we are based on what we're looking and what we're seeing. If your nervous system feels very scared by something that it is watching on social media, that has absolutely nothing to do with who you are. Okay? That is your programmed body. And your programmed body has been programmed by this matrix, this game. And I will tell you, the kingdom 5D is fully integrated. People are living there come on, let's go. But the thing is you've got to disconnect to reconnect. You got to disconnect from this game, as much as you possibly can, and especially with your energy. And your greatest power for January would be to really work getting your nervous system under your control. Because your nervous system will completely regulate once you clear out your subconscious mind, because it gets triggered by your subconscious, not by what you are looking or thinking it. You could, like I said, the way your subconscious works is you could have been hit over the head with a baseball bat when you were 5 years old, and you could have blacked out and got a big goose egg, and everybody starts laughing, or everybody gets really scared, and see, all that is imprinted. And then you can't understand why every time you're at a baseball game, you get a headache. But see, that's how the subconscious mind works versus your conscious mind. This is why when you are actually in a good mood, you feel like you look okay. You're like, I'm going out in the world. And then 15 minutes out in the world, you feel insecure. You feel like you don't want to be there. You feel like you don't want to do that. And one of the things that we're going to really cover hardcore, especially these last few duality classes, non-duality classes, is the difference between denial and delusion. We are on team delusion, 100%. We want the delulu to come true, but we cannot be in denial, because when you are in denial and delusion, it's a hot train wreck, because your conscious mind is living in one world and your subconscious mind is living in another, and you are constantly getting sucked back in to your Chinese handcuffs. Because with 5D, you have to be the holistic version of you that your creator made. You can't be half masked. You can't be half triggered. You can't be half judging. You've got to be all of you. See, that's the alchemist. So in order to change this fertilizer into the promised land, okay, then we have to do our inner work. Now, you don't have to wait till your entire subconscious mind is reprogrammed to start managing your nervous system, okay? There is so many tips and tricks. I'm sure Andy's got some. I know Regina's probably got some. So if you guys have great ideas, we can throw these in. But one of those ways is to make sure, just like when you are doing your Imagineering, that your spine is aligned. So that means if you have to just wear your posture strap when you're out in the world, and then just kind of like keep your head up, you'll notice you start getting in your head as soon as your head drops. Okay. One of the reasons that happens just from a biology perspective is because, and I learned this in that movie, Jerry Maguire, the human head weighs 8 pounds, right? So when your head is forward, well, see, now your course of gravity is really off, and it's causing your body to have to rebalance to make up for this extra weight that it doesn't normally carry in front of it. And that changes your shoulders, that changes your back, that changes your hips, that changes your knees, that changes the position of your feet. So now, even though you're like, oh, good, nobody's looking at me, your entire body is like, quick, rebalance. She's walking like if you walked around like this all day, okay, there would be muscles and nerves inside of you shaking that you don't feel. And the reason you don't feel it is because you're in your head. You're in your mental space trying to mentally intuit what is going to happen. And this is like something that happens, I feel like, by the time we're 21 years old, 3 7-year cycles, if you haven't been completely ridiculed and shamed like most of us, you know, then you probably would notice that when your posture goes out. But most people, when their posture is out now, it feels better than when their posture is in. And they're like, just, I can't wear that posture up. Okay, well, good luck. I mean, you know what I mean? I know it's uncomfortable, but your body has rewired itself for your uncomfortable, which means that now it's almost like it's rebuilt out of this improper like flow. Okay. And so, okay, if my chin is down and I'm walking around like this, I'm taking in everybody's heart shit. Okay. Everybody's mental crap. And my root is like inflamed because I don't feel safe. Well, guess what? That's going to cause gut issues, because that's where I emotionally digest how I feel. So one of the greatest ways to control humans is to put their bodies out of alignment. So it's almost like, you guys remember, and probably everyone in this class remembers, maybe you guys that are in your 30s don't get this, but our generation, before any of this really cool stuff happened, we had those big box TVs where the antenna, like you had to go hold it sometimes, or you had to put like aluminum foil on it to make it like get to the right place. But you realize that your body is a series of antennas that together makes one antenna that goes all the way to the motherland, okay, or wherever you want to call it, where your true home is. So if you are not constantly straightening out that antenna, you're not going to hear from your higher self. So no matter how intuitive we are, okay, like, so right now I'm at home. I got my nice heater going in my office that looks like a fireplace. I'm nice and cozy. I got my Starbucks coffee. I'm not triggered, okay? Like, everybody's good. Everything's happy. So I'm in this direct flow. But if I was doing this session, maybe in the middle of Times Square or in the middle of a restaurant where all this other activity is going on, I might have to really regulate and ground myself to be able to have a clear flow state. You see? So those of us that are in this group that are healers and practitioners and teachers and guides and messengers, it's like there's a reason why we're really good at what we're good at, because we are in control of the space. Okay, we are in control of this session. We are in control of the information. They've agreed to be there. It's not like we shackled them and brought them in. So they are in agreement to be there. And so it allows us to be in our flow state to treat or to teach. But when we are this same empath that feels like we've got the power of God's in our hands and we go out into the world, okay, then it's all of a sudden you're using your mental. That's the thing. As soon as you start using your mental intuition, you're deregulated. Okay. So if we can find maybe 10 or 15 ways, but the best thing you can do, no matter how uncomfortable you feel, you will actually feel more confident standing upright with your shoulders back. Okay. Your body will feel more confident. Your physiology will feel more confident. Now your ego is going to be more out of confidence, because now you're actually looking at all of the people that you think are looking at you. So the ego is the one that wants to be comfortable. So it puts your body in an uncomfortable position so it can feel comfortable. So when you're out in the world and you want to put your shoulders back, nobody's looking at you like you're puffing up your chest. If anything, people naturally feel more safe around people that have good posture, because good posture means to the subconscious mind that that person is safe to be around. Okay? That person has strong confidence. That person knows what's going on. So if shit hits the fan, I'm going to find the person with their shoulders back, because they're going to be the ones that can handle this situation. Now, that's not going to come from your conscious awareness. That is going to come from your subconscious primal awareness. Now, another reason why is because even if you could be super insecure in your mind, your body is opened, okay? Your body has thousands of years of memories and information that now is pouring into the collective, and you're giving this amazing gift of your presence out into the world. And so what'll happen is every single person that is in their ego that receives that download from your shoulders back is going to get into their own head. If they do notice you, they will immediately notice themselves. Okay. And I know you can have a memory of doing this where, especially as a woman, you know, you're not feeling so good about yourself. You feel fat in your dress. You don't want to be there. You know, you ate too much last night. You walk into a room and you see a woman who's in her power. You look at her, but it brings you back to your shiz. Okay. You might be looking at her, but that makes you judge yourself. Okay. Now, if your ego gets really uncomfortable, you might start judging her. Okay. But if she isn't over the top, what you're going to be trying to figure out the whole time is what about her is making you feel less good about yourself or him. Okay. Like one of the things that I've noticed with men, and they're way more obvious than women. See, women, when we're uncomfortable, we talk. That's how we break the ice. Oh my God, I love your shoes. Okay, good. You know, whatever. That's what we're going to do when we feel uncomfortable. What men are going to do is they're going to reposture. And it's so obvious. It's like, oh my gosh. So I have an ex-husband who is 6 feet tall, and he is in his own mind an alpha. And of course, we share a son. And so I have to go to baseball and things like that. So anytime I would bring a boyfriend to baseball, like a long-term boyfriend or something over the last 14 years, okay, I would be like, I wonder how long it's going to take me to notice his posture changing. Okay. Like it was just like instant. He would glance at me and then see the dude and be like, and it was so obvious. And I was just like, oh, dude, you're just so sad. And then the guy I was with was like, he just changed his posture. I'm like, I know. And so that's what we do, but that's ego. You know what I mean? What we want to do is we want to kind of like fully accept that our nervous systems are shot. And when you go out there, it's going to be such an overstimulation out there that you're going to be fighting that current the whole time you're out. Okay. Unless you do like what I do when you do all your outside shopping, like on a Monday afternoon when humans are supposed to be working and stuff. But if you have to go out into the world, like a concert or a show or something like that, I mean, it's coming at you from everywhere. The lights, the sounds, the smells, the feels, and every single thing out in the world is designed to stress you out. Because as soon as you get stressed out, you start to pull energy in. And now you are manifesting for whatever agenda is happening. When your shoulders are up and back and you're confident, you're now manifesting for you. Okay, so this is just something I wanted to kind of like plant that root and understand that we're going to play this year exactly the same game that they are when we're out in the world, when we're at home, when we're manifesting. Okay, when you do happen to see something that's just horrific through your social media feed, give you tools on how to counteract what they are trying to give to you. You give them basically a love bomb back. So there's 7 stages of manipulation that get you into an attachment of any kind. This happens with money, it happens with your job, it happens with food, it happens with lots of things, because what you chase runs away from you. So the 7 stages of manipulation was one of the psychological tactics that the Matrix game makers created to keep humans asking questions and keep luring them deeper and deeper and deeper through confusion, through mystery, through, you know, like this whole like place where, you know, Area 51, like, you guys, first of all, on this planet, anything they didn't want you to know about, you'd not know about it. And the stuff that's really going on, you don't know about it. But what they do is they create these little mouse traps all over the planet to get people looking and talking and driving over there and speculating. Because when now I'm fascinated by that, fascination is another word for focus. Okay? And because it leaves a mystery and curiosity inside of me, I can't stop thinking about it. Well, so now whatever secret agenda that they do have, they pull from your energy to manifest it. Because you are the antenna, you are the life force, you are the consciousness that supports the game. So if you're like, I don't care, like I've talked to aliens a million times in my dreams, like I don't care. But see, here's the thing, it's been so boring here, because that's another thing. Half the reason we get into these horrific situations that we find ourselves in was boredom. Well, give me something to do. Let me go chase Bigfoot for a while, right? Like there's nothing going on here. We got to move at this slow like molasses. We can't jump high. We can't do anything because they turned off our DNA and they capped it. Okay. So when they turned off our DNA and capped it, the only way that we can reactivate it is basically by blowing the circuit. Now, what they added to the genome was a worship gene that never existed before. Okay, this is 200,000-year-old like prototype here. So they added a worship gene, and now humans worship. Okay, that's what we do. And so, like, I know even in this situation where you're walking around, you're like, oh, I'm the Christ within, I'm God. The second you don't feel safe, you begin to worship Jesus. You begin to worship God. Or before we woke up, it was celebrities and athletes and, you know, other gurus. But it's in your DNA. When you don't feel truly connected to all of who you are, that worship gene will kick in. And you will latch on to that idol. Okay, this is why in the Bible, in the Lord's Prayer, when thy eye be single, the body will be filled with light, which means that your master is not an idol. It is not an obsession. You're not chasing money. You're not worshiping money. You're not worshiping that guy that won't call you back. You're not worshiping. Because obsession for your soul's purpose is necessary. But worship, okay, curiosity, mystery, confusion. Think about that one relationship that you've had maybe years ago, the one that might got away or something, whatever you want to feel. How many years did you spend thinking about them? You might still. And the reason why we think about those people or those relationships is because of the seed planted of the mystery, the curiosity, and the lack of closure. So what they do is all of a sudden, oh, there's a new civilization built. Well, this contradicts the Bible. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, that's not, nobody's looking over there. Okay, well, this celebrity just got knocked up by someone. Let's look over here. You see, so wherever they are really doing things, so here's how it works. When they want to manifest, they create a scene. They pull our energy from the scene and they manifest behind closed doors, which means you don't know what they're creating because they already got your energy. So you're like, why did I just watch 4 hours of Britney Spears dancing in her underwear? I don't know. Well, guess what? That's why. Okay. So you've got to be hyper vigilant about who gets your life force energy. Because if it's going out of you, and now you're thinking about, well, what's wrong with her? Did she not get loved by her mother because you're an empath? Well, now it doesn't matter because you're directing that energy and they're utilizing it to build out the game. So I want to share something with you. And now you guys that are a little bit older than me, you guys are old timers in there, like I'm pretty old at this point, but some of you are older than me, you understand that if you go back, and this is where my guides took me. We went on a little adventure about a week and a half ago. And they took me to 100 years ago, basically. And 100 years ago, well, let's say 1920. Okay, 1920 is when Rockefeller went in and he changed the entire school systems. Okay, but what was going on before 1920? Nikola Tesla, Einstein. Okay, like if you really look at what was happening before, we were moving in 100+ years ago. We were moving into what we are working on right now, collectively, with this Christ consciousness. They were like, it's here. So those were the seeds that were planted. Rockefeller came in and changed the entire school system, took out all of Eastern medicine and formulated Western medicine. Okay. Then began working steadily on poisoning so that would feed Western medicine. And what this was doing slowly, from a place that doesn't feel like you're going against your will whatsoever, beginning to give you more in the outside world that you could chase. Okay. More TVs, bigger TVs, more programs. Okay. Or, phone systems, all these things. And now, now guess what? They want to leave the house. Well, let's just have them take it with us. Okay. So we never are without it. Right. So this has been a slow hypnosis over 100 years. And again, you have to understand that this is not 100 years old. This has been going on since the beginning of time. But Earth is moving in her ascension. And so the occult knows the different steps of the ascension process. It knows where we're going collectively. And so it's always one step ahead because it's working with the phases. It's working with the ascension to work against us. So now let's say 100 years later, where are we as a collective? We're at home with COVID. Look at that. Look at that 100-year span. Now Bill Gates wants to change the schools and take all the teachers out and have all of the kids being taught by technology. Okay, so that's the next agenda. Now, I'm not saying this so you go, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed about it. No, I'm telling you this because if you're not paying attention, 2 generations can go by and we think that we are evolving. But what we have evolved into is beings that are outside of our bodies, living very deregulated realities where we are constantly seeking safety, security, and survival and calling it life. Because the second, like if you even look at, you look at people on the beaches, like in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, they were healthy. Okay. None of them had a ton of sunblock on. You know, nobody was like obesely overweight. Like even in the United States, it's like, so, and you guys have to understand that the whole game board here was to create the new Jerusalem. Okay. And then basically take over the biblical power of the world. Well, if you look in the middle of the word Jerusalem, it says USA. So this is the melting pot where all of this goes on. So the rest of the world looks at us like we're the reality show. Okay, we're like the reality show for the rest. What is going on over there? Like everybody uses the US dollar. Everybody speaks English. Okay, it was an occult language, and it's a melting pot, and it was perfect because everybody who came to the United States that wasn't an original, like indigenous human, ran away from where they were to come here. Okay, everybody's looking for freedom, so everybody left to go look for freedom because this is where we could be free. And so you see, it's just one mousetrap after another mousetrap. And if we're not paying attention, it really feels like we are expanding. It feels like, wow, look at what we have. Like, you know, I was just thinking back over when I was Luke's age, like how I would spend my days during the summer compared to like what he has at his fingertips. And he's more bored than I was. Like he's like wants to like he's so bored. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you're gonna have to use your imagination, right? We were forced into using our imaginations, and that's why we were healthier. We had to go outside. Could have been dead in a ditch, but we had to go outside. These kids, we don't even, there's some weird like gene inside of us now that even if I live in a beautiful neighborhood, I'm not gonna let Luke go there till the street lights come on. Till all hours of the night. Why? Why? Because this is a way safer neighborhood than I grew up. So we have to think about these things when we're putting off our spiritual work or our inner work. Because if this is how much can happen in 1 year, okay, we can move all of the women out of the home and put them into the work field. Okay. We can completely emasculate the men. And one of the ways that we have emasculated the men as a culture is we have taken away their stability in a company. There's no longer the 401k. There's no longer the option for a pension. And now, again, some companies that are old school, I'm not saying this is 100%, but most of the corporations, okay, that would be able to afford to pay a pension or pay some sort of retirement, they will fire you before you get to that point and hire someone younger and cheaper to do it. So when this started happening, where men started getting fired after tenure and losing, and they were like, well, now they got to go over here and put their money into an IRA or a 401k and, you know, and then hope for Social Security. Well, as a man, remember, even Jesus was a carpenter. He was a builder. What can a man count on if he cannot build? At least give 100% to the company and know that they have his back. So that has completely changed. I cannot tell you how many military guys are veterans that I've had to do very deep PTSD work with that signed up for exactly that reason. They wanted to be part of something. They wanted to contribute something. They wanted to build freedom. They wanted to, you know, they wanted to be men. They wanted to go out and provide and protect. And then if they spent more than 2 trips, they started to see what was really going on and they felt completely devastated. Now they've got a huge bag of shame that the VA is pumping drugs into them so they won't feel it because they did things or they saw things or they witnessed things that went completely against the whole reason that they went. And we don't send our guys through any coming of man process anymore, like our original collective did, like our original humans, where men were taken and shown how to be men. So now we've got men that are becoming women, we've got women that are becoming men, and we've got children being raised by technology. Okay, so, and again, this isn't a class to scare you. It's just one of the most important understandings for redemption, for us to move over into this new world, is full radical acceptance. Okay. Because you are not going to really use your power if you are not plugged in to why you're here. I mean, this just shows me even more of why I'm here. This does not scare me whatsoever because I know all I have to do is take my focus away from what I was focusing on before. And again, I know what it is because you have a deregulated nervous system, you've got a body full of trauma, okay? And when your body's full of trauma, it's going to have at least 3 or 4 addictions. You're going to have a lot of inner judgment. Because here's the thing, the body doesn't know that you can't see its shame. The body doesn't know that you can't see its guilt. So the body is walking around like it feels naked. It feels like people are going to know every single thing it's ever been through, gone through, or done because it's primitive. Now, your ego thinks that no one can see anything. And it will act like that. That's what the mask is for. Okay. So when we are learning this idea of self-concept and law of assumption, then we have to take those 2 mathematical properties into context here and go, okay, if my self-concept, that my body has a self-concept, okay, and then I talk to my body in a certain way, and my ego thinks of my body in a certain way, well, what do I believe, what do I assume is going to happen? What do I assume is going to happen if I take my body out in the world, even though I've got my mask on, I've got my happy smile, I've got the shirt that makes me look fit, what is really going to happen when you're out in the world? You're going to pour in your energy out into the world while simultaneously sucking the energy of the world in. So let's say, let's give this analogy. Let's say a woman goes out, okay, and she's dressed up and she's like, trying to pull herself together energetically to feel good about herself. She walks in, she's feeling okay, she's feeling good, she's with her girlfriends. And then all of a sudden she realizes nobody's talking to her, nobody's noticing her, nobody's really like complimenting her on her new shirt. Well, women, we feel seen through attention. Okay. So what she's going to do now is she's going to be looking for everyone in the room that is getting the attention. So what I do now, if this is me as a woman, I'm going to start pouring my energy into her cup, into his cup. That guy's handsome. Why is he not talking to me? Now, this is obviously regular humans I'm talking about. We don't probably act like this, but this is how human behavior is. So now what I'm doing is pouring, when I'm asking what, now I'm focusing on that, focusing on that, focusing. Now I'm also acting how other people are looking at these other people. And by the time I go home, if I put a few cups of alcohol in my body or some junk food in my body, I'm literally going to never want to go out again. You see? So the more that we like stuff, and then wear the mask, even though we're on a spiritual journey, even though we have these gifts, even though we want to do the right thing, even though we want to ascend, even though we want to be part of the solution, we are 100% being part of the problem. So if you are actually not playing the occult game against them, you are actually working for them. Just so you know, you're working for them. By doing nothing whatsoever, you're still helping. Because here you are, a child of God, doing nothing. Okay, and I don't mean that you're supposed to be out there writing a bestseller, but utilizing, harnessing, working with your energy, manifesting your desires is working against them. It's saying, no, you're not going to get my energy. I'm going to use this to manifest my kingdom, my reality. So every time you go insecure, you just pour it out. So that's why I'm saying is the best way that we could really step into our work this year, whether you guys are joining me or not, is to make your focus confidence. Okay. One of the ways that you can get body confidence up very quickly is a lot of positive self-affirmations. Okay. We know that works. We've been practicing that. We know we feel better. We know we don't get so triggered. So that is something that was very needed and wanted because we have replaced negative self-talk with positive self-talk. So we're inching our way in there. But just because you're saying nice things to yourself doesn't mean that your nervous system is regulated. So you're going to be like fighting against your own willpower And that is going to take your joy away from doing what you're doing. That's going to take your fun away from being in the world. Because even though we loathe people, we love people. Okay. And the only reason that we loathe people is because we can feel all of their crap. But if you were in the upright position, you would be aware, compassionate, but you wouldn't feel it. Okay. The only way you can feel people's energy is if you are contracted. So when empaths say, oh, I didn't feel it, that's because they're contracted. And you're either contracted because of your body, just like your body's all out of alignment from accidents and posture, or you're carrying so much baggage emotionally that is weighing you down. Remember, weight and waiting. So if we look at quantum fitness part 1, it was, I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm waiting for change, but I'm carrying all of this baggage that's weighing me down. So really reflect on that for January, because we don't do resolutions, we do intentions. So intentions are, no, I don't want to be, I don't want to get to the gym. I want to become someone who doesn't need the gym. How about that? Because if you're not pouring out to the occult, just you, if you're not giving your siphon away, not at all, what could you create with your energy field? You have direct Wi-Fi, no breaks. You're not having a hotspot off anyone, which means you don't need a hotspot off money. You don't need a hotspot off a job. What would that be like? Okay. The only the symbolism we have of that so far in our research would be the Christ, Jesus, who is manifesting direct, instant. Oh, you got one fish? Let me make so much that it goes rotten. Okay. Just his direct focus. That's it. He wasn't worrying about anybody else. He wasn't in anybody else's head. He wasn't in self-judgment of himself. He wasn't looking around, what can I eat? He's like, I'll eat when I eat. So he was completely plugged in, tapped in, turned on. Now, what I say is I recommend us doing this work in private and practice it publicly. Okay, so actually give yourself practice opportunities. Really get yourself into that correct nervous system and walk through a crowded restaurant. Okay, get really dressed up and walk into a high-end hotel. Practice these things, because one of the reasons why we don't know how we really feel is that we refuse to put ourselves in situations that are uncomfortable. Okay. I broke through that when I toured all over the world. I had to get comfortable traveling alone. I had to get comfortable speaking in front of hundreds of people. I had to break through that. But I also still had my masks that I could wear, and turn it on and turn it off. Because I think the type of people that we are introverts and extroverts. When we need to be on, we can be on. But then when we want to be off, we feel like we need to be off for a while because we feel so overpoured. And you think it's because of the energy of your family. It's not. If you go into your family environment and you worry about them, okay, or if you're worried, or you're thinking about what they're saying, you're pouring in. So when you go home, it wasn't their energy that got on you that made you tired. It was that you poured onto them. And now, whatever problem that you were worried about, you just made bigger for them, because you poured your life force energy, not because you weren't in the right heart space, but you weren't in the right focus space. Worrying about someone gives energy to the problem, because worry, the best definition I've ever heard of worry or fear, is faith in evil. So when you think that being worried is a good thing, you have to see yourself as the Holy Grail, the energy. So if I look at that, I worry about that. I wonder what I can do, what I can say, how I can protect that person over there or what over here. Then what you're actually doing, even though you're maybe even affirming that their cancer is gone or something, well, you just poured in and you made it worse. Okay, so it's things like that even is not being taught in mainstream manifestation yet. And the reason why is because half of the collective that believes they're awake are still working for the occult undercover, not on purpose. None of this is on purpose. I was doing it. Okay, like I've had to catch myself 25 times today. So it's not like, no, we're doing it. No, it's just that's human nature now. Okay. And so really understanding, well, if I kept all my energy, well, then you have ego going, well, that's selfish. You don't even care about anybody else now. Right. Well, I can create more if I'm a multimillionaire for them. Okay. I can put my hands on them and they'll heal instantly if I could completely ground and anchor my focus. You see, so you got to look at the long game here, which is what this year is for me. I'm going the long game. I've always taken the short game. Let me get through this project. Let me get through this. Let me get through that. Let me get through this. Let me make it through this week. Let me make it through this year. I'm not doing that anymore. Now, I'm not putting a timeline on it, but instead I'm seeing myself as a farmer rather than a consumer. Like I know that the seeds that I plant this year, okay, and that I take excellent care of and I tend to them. So one of the things about being married to a farmer's family is that they don't travel when those seeds are in the ground. They don't take their eyes off of those seeds unless they have people working for them that are, because that's their livelihood. So that's what I mean about us going into the world and then putting all of our energy in the world instead of our thoughts, which is the sunlight, and our feelings, which is the water. So if I plant my seeds and then I go out into the world and I get a really bad mood, well, I put that bad mood on my seed, even though I'm not thinking about my manifestation. I'm thinking about them, but that's the mood. Because like we think, okay, it's like a baby. It's like, oh, taken care of. No, it's not. Until it has barren fruit for you, it is not strong enough without your focus. So if we want to create something major, okay, like, getting out of survival, then we're going to have to be diligent. Like I remember at the beginning of last year, I was like really anchoring in this idea of discipline and consistency. Okay, so I'm going to change that to relentlessness for this year. We have to be relentless about it because the game has increased outside. And the reason why is that now that Disney and all of our favorite childhood memories have all been completely shamed for us. Well, see, now we don't have anything to hold on to because our entire childhood was a lie. And so it's like now we are just pouring more and more into their game. By us knowing about what is happening, like you hear these people like, oh, they're scared now. No, they're not. They're like, everybody's looking at us now. Yay, we don't even have to trick them. They're all talking about us. Okay. And the thing is what I want to show you guys this year is that you can fight fire with fire, because as they are calling it in by dropping something in the news and then having light workers talk about it, okay, then, and light workers are pouring a lot more heart-loved energy into it because we have more of a higher consciousness to start with, right? So we are, a 64 ounce big gulp versus an 8 ounce. Okay. If you want to look at it that way, they want our community. See, they've had our community since the beginning of time with religion, the light working community. But if you look at Jesus's story, who were the worst of the worst? It wasn't even the Romans. It was the Pharisees. That's our category. You see? So if we believe that we are doing the right thing by talking and educating ourselves about it, we are actually growing crops for them. All right. And so they go, okay, well, so what? They don't follow celebrities anymore. Great. let's just create influencers. Let's just create, you know, other things for them to look at. Let's start creating earthquakes everywhere. You know, let's do this, let's do this. And so the thing is now we're kind of like searching for what's happening instead of going, you know what, eye of the storm. And I don't care what's going out there, but nobody's getting my energy anymore. Pour in, pour in, pour in, right? You practice, you go out in the world, you keep your nervous system regulated. That means you keep your energy while you go out. Okay. And even if you have to check in 100 times while you're out, if you won't come back and feel bad. Can you imagine? You won't feel completely drained from your Costco run. Like you'll feel good. Now, not only this, when I say fight fire with fire, is when you go out in the world with that heart that you have and that love you have in your heart, and your nervous system is safe, you're pouring into all those people. You don't even have to bless them. Your energy blesses them for you. So either going out in the war field and you're getting, you know, bullets thrown at you, or you're going out there, you're keeping your cup full, and you're leaving an imprint like a pebble into water every place you go. Okay. So that's why, like, if you think of a candle, it could light all the candles in the world and never go out. Okay. So you want to see yourself as that candle that if you can keep your fire lit the whole time you're out, then when you get back, how many people did you actually help by just having something you love in your heart opened to the world? Because, you know, you go out there in the world and there's such loving people. You know, we see the ego, we see the unconsciousness. They run over us with their baskets and we're going, gosh, people are so unconscious. But you don't know their heart underneath. Their heart is amazing, just like yours, but they are deregulated. Okay. So they're sucking everybody else's problems in worse. You know, it's like you go to the hospital, it's like, don't be around the sick person because they don't want to get your germs and we don't want them to give your germs. It's kind of the same thing where you think about like, okay, that seems like common sense, but the only way that I could actually catch a germ is if my nervous system was deregulated. If I wasn't, I would be not a vibrational match to a germ. And I think that's why I've never gotten COVID, not once. First of all, I didn't really believe in it. I was like, that's the flu. I mean, but see, the thing is people that were really either in resistance of it, I'm never going to get it, are the ones who got it. And the people who were terrified got it. But the people were like, okay, well, if it's the flu when I get it, then I got antibodies. Great. You know, if I have to take my kid out of school, cool. Like I was just fine with whatever. Okay. Never got it. So when you want to look at it as like something like that, the only reason that COVID had the power that it had is because we all kept looking. If we were to use that 3 years, you guys, to do the work that we're going to have to do in like the next 3 months, then this would be game over. Okay. But that was why the strategic plot of it was before this 24 energy comes in, which is the infinite abundance, where people are going to be like, I want my inheritance. That's the energy of this year. Where's my inheritance? Okay. If that would have been 3 years ago, this would be game over. But every single time they do something to create some sort of worldwide panic attack, it always backfires because spirit, we think, okay, occult might be 1-2 steps ahead of basic sheeples, but God's already seen the end. God's already living in the end, knows exactly how to use this situation for positive. Okay, how to use it all. And the story of the crucifixion was not for us to get all worried that we're going to have to die on the Christ to live again. The idea is that we as humans that come to do this particular type of work, service to mankind, to be the influence, to be the example, we have to go through suffering in a way where we understand compassion through the biology. Okay, the body biology. So the things that you have suffered through in your reality throughout the life has been your crucifixion. That has been to develop within you a sense of compassion for pain. It was never to break you. It was never to punish you. It was there to, based on the purpose that you have on earth for this time, has been what you had to endure until now. Because whether you had to endure horrific trauma, that just means that you're going to have a bigger reach. Okay. And you knew that once you crossed over and you chose the salvation. So it's like, okay, if you guys have watched the Chosen show, like the Chosen, or you've read the Bible, and you go after the resurrection, could anybody kill Jesus? Nope. Come at me now, bro. Like, what you got? Nothing. Right. So you want to look at when he fully self-realizes, lets go of the old mind, remans himself. Guess what? Eternal, immortal. So although he was manifesting from a carnal space before, once you've had your full resurrection, which means you fully, basically the resurrection is when you fully reprogram your subconscious mind. Okay, that's your resurrection. When is literally you are untouchable. Because if you teach your subconscious mind that you're immortal, you will become immortal. Because your subconscious mind doesn't care, and it is not constrained to the laws of this universe. It does not have to take in consideration of gravity, time, or space. So if for the next 30 days, you just listened in subliminal that you are immortal, you would start doing things that immortals do. That is actually going to be part of our work this year. Because why not? Nothing feels more powerful than being able to do things that other people can't do. I'm sorry. There's a superhero in all of us. You see? So, oh shoot, it's 11 o'clock. Geez, I just talked for an hour. All right. So with that being said, I got to go get Luke at baseball camp. I want to just plant the seed because a year ago, that's that beginning of the end began, where not just the school system changed. When the school system changed and the war was over and the women, we went through the feminist movement, although it was very empowering for us women, because we were so starving for our own rights, for our own freedom, that we have gone over and beyond. And I mean, like I ask women now and I'm like, do you even want to work? And they're like, oh, not really. But you talked to them 10 minutes ago. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do. I'm like, do you really want to? Oh, that program snaps out. I'm like, not really. I just want to go and gather and frolic. You know, when you really get back, you're like, oh. But see, the thing is until women feel safe, we have something to prove. So we're still in that, even if we don't consider ourselves feminists, we're still in that program. We want our rights. We want our power. We want our freedom. So again, when you ask men, do you want to sit on the couch and watch video games all day, or do you want to go build something? Well, what can I build? You know, like here's 100,000 acres and some money. That dude would not be sitting there. You know, even if he just made like a big skateboard park, it would be something. He would build something. So you got to see that the reason why we are so obsessed with doing certain things is because we've never truly had our freedom to be ourselves. So when we're looking at our self-concept this year, do you really want to accomplish that goal? Or do you want to be a child of God? Do you want to be an expectation of your inheritance? Do you want to start playing with your superpowers? Okay, because I know where I want to be, and it had nothing to do with hard work. So for the rest of this week, practice with that nervous system. You can belly breathe. Okay, now belly breathe is going to be great, but you're going to really have to breathe. So if you don't want people noticing you, okay, just pop out your root and look at it as it's like a flower going to the sun. Your shoulders will naturally come back. Tilt your head up. Okay. If you want help reminding you, wear your posture strap underneath your clothes. Okay. And then just kind of like every 10 minutes, if you start to think your mind, or if you seeing your energy go into that lady that's got, a giant booty over there, bring it back. Don't pour into that. Even if you're just curious, right? Bring it back. Notice how your hands feel on the cart. Notice how your breath feels in your body. Notice how that free sample just tasted. Okay. Keep your energy within yourself. When I have been practicing this, you guys, I have had a man bring me roses to my car. I have been getting free stuff out in the world, because what's happening is I'm not like, don't look at me. I'm like, I'm here. People are like thanking me unconsciously. It's very cool. And I'm not like spraying mace at the guy behind me with roses because I'm not deregulated. So it's becoming very magical. And I want you to have this experience this week. So practice this. Do something intentional. Go out into the world intentional after practicing this for a day or two. Now, Andy, Regina, those of you who are practitioners, if you want to give us any other tips for being able to stay regulated in an unregulated environment, let's share. Let's share. I will tell you guys, next year, we're going to have a private Facebook group, because there's going to be a lot of content, books, recordings, things that I have discovered over this last 6 months that I want to share with you guys on, as far as the superhero training stuff, that I want you to have like the copies of stuff that's like you're not going to find on Amazon. Okay. So if you are wanting to join me on that, I did put that little document in our text. I'm going to be charging the non-students pretty much double of that for them to join us. And then also, if you guys want if you guys want to get some of the older like alchemy work or something, let me know. And I could give it to you either like half cost, or we could just figure out how to give it to you, because I don't really care. I got my new website that's going to be pretty much done this week, and I'm really excited about that. So we'll have all of our archives back. And again, it's good because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be becoming the alchemist this year. So we learned about the alchemy, the non-duality. Now we're going to put it all together. So I hope you guys are there, but if not, you got this. This is what you were born for. And, I'm right here with you. So, but I will not be sharing our classes on YouTube next year, because we're going to be talking about all kinds of weird stuff that I'm not going to be putting out there. Okay. I love you guys. And I will see some of you in the fellowship later on. Bye.